What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're taking a look at the ZeroFeud C.U.P or compact utility pouch, specifically size B, which you can see here on the right. I did want to get size A on the table for a size comparison, but I have already made a video on this one, which I will link to in the corner. And so, really excited to pick up size B finally. These launched at the same time. The B sold out pretty quickly and hasn't been in stock. The size A has been pretty readily available, although in limited colors. They finally did a restock though, so I picked up a color match set of the two, just so I have two in the same matching colors. A lot of different colors available in both nylon and polyester. These are both nylon pouches, obviously the same material, but the original one that I had was polyester, if you'd like to see what that looked like. And really excited to pick up a size B because the size A was and is one of my favorite EDC pouches, really due to its compact size, overall mobility. You can stuff this in a front pocket without bulking it up too much. It is thicker a little bit than their soft wallet, but pretty similar footprint overall. And if you don't want it in the front pocket, of course, it will also fit in that back pocket. The limiting factor on it though is that size. It doesn't accommodate full-size tools. Something like a full-size multi-tool or a really large folder isn't going to fit in there. So if you want to carry something like that, you need to go with the B. And you're trading off that compact size. This one isn't really a front pocket pouch for me. I think some people probably would carry it, especially in like cargo pockets and stuff. But for me, this is more of a back pocket pouch at this point. And so I think it's worth the trade-off in some cases. Between the two of them, you'll usually be able to carry what you're looking to carry. If you want to go small and lightweight, you can go with the A. If you want to go full size, you can go with that B. Price-wise, not that much of a difference either. Regardless of whether you get nylon or polyester, it's going to be the same. So the size A runs $20, the size B is $25. Either way, pretty economical as far as pouches go. I don't know where they're made though. And so I know ZeroFeud is owned in the US, it's designed in the US, and they operate, but they don't specify where these are made. It wouldn't be surprising to hear they were outsourced to somewhere else just because of how fairly they're priced. But either way, they are made out of good materials, are really well built. I've never had an issue with like loose stitching or these pouches falling apart, and I have quite a few. And so I've never had any sort of quality issues with them, so not the biggest concern. Now, I'm going to move this one out of the way. Actually, no, I didn't even talk about the dimensions. I showed the size, but this one's 3 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. The size B steps it up an inch in either direction, so 4.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches tall. Doesn't sound like a huge difference, but does make a pretty big difference in terms of how much you can stuff in there and the size of gear you can stuff in there. Now, I'm not one to overstuff a pouch, so I didn't really overload this, but I did put some larger items in there to give you a sense of scale. So starting off with this, I guess backside, I'm considering it kind of the front because this is where the tag is located, but you can see the spine is over here on the right. So if we're looking at it as a book, the hook and loop side would be that front side. But starting off with this backside, we have a singular pocket about 4 inches wide by 4 inches tall. And so you can accommodate a couple, maybe an extra 1.5 inches here, since this is 5.5 inches tall. It will hang out a little bit, which isn't a big deal depending on what you're carrying, but it can accommodate some larger items there. You also have this pull tab here that you can use to attach a lanyard or a keychain, that sort of thing. In that back pocket, I don't have much in there. It's going to be for slimmer, flatter items like most pouches on the exterior pockets, just because the interior bulk eats into a lot of that space. It also means that it's pretty tight. It's not going to fall out of there or anything like that, which is nice. And as I shook that, you do hear a little bit of rattle with this YKK zipper. You can clip that off and replace it with some paracord pulls if you want to get rid of that rattle. But as is, it does have a little bit of rattle. I don't notice it a ton in my pocket, but in hand you obviously hear it. And so the only thing I have in here is a notebook. I am someone who likes to take physical notes for certain types of things. And so I have a Dango notebook. I think this one just has a good size on it. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but you can see it fits pretty much flush in that back pocket. And so not a lot of design choices, but they sell these in a 3-pack, I think for like $9.99, so they're not super expensive. You can see 48 pages, although this one's not quite 48 pages because I tore out a few pages. It had some personal notes on there, but grid pages, and yeah, fits in there perfectly. And so Nice to be able to get that on the outside, although there are interior pockets that can definitely accommodate that as well. Flipping over to that front side, we have a 4" by 5.5" hook and loop panel that can accommodate a ton of patches. On there I have Cariculture on the top and bottom, sandwiching the Phytonics patches. These all showed up in my P.O. box as a bit of a surprise today. I was super stoked. There was actually a bunch more from Phytonics. If you check out my most recent Instagram post, you can see some of those. But yeah, super stoked on these, and they look really, really good together. We have these like cyberpunk ones, themed ones here in the left and middle, and then the Rick and Morty Bebop robot over here, and really cool. And then of course the Cariculture in both the black and the white looks great. I was on, I believe it was episode 3 of their podcast. If you'd like to check that out, I'll try and link that in the corner as well. And if you've already seen that one, check out some of their other episodes. They just did one with them questioning each other, which is a really good opportunity to get to know Chris and Josh. And so definitely check that out as well. But outside of that, nothing else really going on the exterior. If you don't want patches, you can leave it blank. This is pretty soft. It's not like the rough Velcro panel, so it's not going to scratch up anything that's touching it or get caught on a ton of things because it's that softer side. But if you do want to cover it, they do make organizers, not ZeroFeud, but a lot of companies like 511, Viperade, Maxpedition, Vertex, even like the cruiser attachment would probably fit on here, although this is a bit larger than that wallet, and so you'd still have some extra real estate there. But you can cover it with something else is what I'm trying to get at, if you'd like to, that will add an additional exterior organization. So already mentioned that YKK zipper. Don't know the size on this one, but obviously going to be pretty smooth and reliable there. Only a single zipper, but it does fully clamshell, which I always like in a pouch. It makes it so much easier to just access and see all of your gear. So we'll get this open, and you can see a little bit more organization on the left. We do have a high-vis background up here, and I'm not sure if that's on every single colorway or certain colorways, but I do like that. Just makes it a little bit easier to see what's inside, at least in that back pocket, especially if you have stuff just kind of floating around in the bottom. So we'll get everything out and then measure each side. So on the left side, this is where you have more organization. I'm really not making the best use out of it because I have such slim items, but they're pretty generously sized front pockets that you can put in, and these are going to be the shorter ones. That back panel is about the same as the back on the opposite side. So to the left, something to write in that notebook, just an O Pen Mini, and they make these in a ton of different colors. They're also pretty budget friendly, so I'll link to some of those in the description. On the right hand side, I wanted to get a knife. This one is a smaller knife. I definitely could have fit something larger, but this is the Heretic Manticore S, which is a small size out the front knife. Haven't done a video or even a short on this one, I don't think, but definitely coming in the future. And that was occupying this right hand side pocket. Now behind that is a full-size multi-tool. This is a Leatherman rebar, and it's a pretty long one, about as long as they get, so did want to show how that fit in there. And I had it in the back pocket, but you actually can fit this into one of those slimmer pockets up front. How I had it loaded out, decided to put it in the back, but it can accommodate that. I will say that like the charge that I have doesn't fit in here. That might be because I have the one with G10 scales, which is a little bit thicker, but I don't think it would fit either way. So the slimmer ones like this, the bolster, the wave, those should all fit in this front organizational pocket. The only one I'm not so sure about is that charge. Mine definitely doesn't fit. And then like the Victorinox Spirit ones, which are a little bit wider, also don't fit in there, but will fit in that back pocket. And so we'll get that one out of there. And now that we have it empty, we can take a look at these back pockets. This back one I would imagine is a little over 4 inches. Yeah, 4 1/8 or so inch deep, and then obviously the full width. Now worth noting that with all of these seams and stuff, it doesn't end up being a full 4 inches. You're looking at about more of 3.5 inches of usable space in that width. In terms of these front ones, they're about 1 3/4 inch wide each, and then the depth is just a hair under 3 inches, so like 2 7/8 or so. And obviously you can go a lot higher than that. Both the items that I had in there were sticking out a little bit, and that's not an issue whatsoever. And so we're going to be looking at the same thing on the right hand side in terms of the dimensions, about 4 inches tall and about 2 7/8 inches tall over here. Both of those are again going to be about 3.5 inches wide of usable space. Now I chose not to overload this. Like I said before, I don't usually overload my pouches. I like to preserve the zippers, and I feel like when you're putting a lot of stress on them, that's when they're going to fail. And so I typically try and keep my pouches a little bit on the slimmer side. So didn't overload this. On the front, I only have this Night Eyes doohickey. Don't remember exactly which model this is. They have a bunch of different items under that doohickey name, but this one has the ratcheting bit driver, and I believe those bits only really work with their bits. I mean, it can use the standard 1/4 inch bits, they just don't really hold in there. The retention for the bits is on the bit itself in this case, and so you can use regular ones, but it's not going to retain them quite as well. Outside of that, we got a little bit of pry functionality, which is nice, some rulers, and a bottle opener, carabiner, a couple different size wrenches, 1/4 inch and 5/16. And so, nice little tool set here. I haven't gotten a ton of use out of this, but it was an add-on item for Amazon. I think it was like 12 bucks or something like that. Nothing too crazy. So, thought I would check this one out. Now behind that, I just have a hank. This is a 7" by 7" Gondek EDC hank. This one actually came from their Hank of the Month Club. Has some helpful illustrations on how to tie various different types of knots. So not only is it usable as a hank, but also informational if you need help tying some of those different knots, which I think is pretty cool. But that's everything I have loaded out in here. You can see I didn't overdo it, but it is nice that you can accommodate like these larger size knives. Like you can put a shaman in here, no problem. Larger size multi-tools. If I want this notebook on the interior, that definitely can accommodate that as well. So you have a little bit of versatility. I believe the change from the version 1 of version 2 of the size B is that the layout used to be mirrored. So you'd have a divided pocket here. And so they just removed that division. I guess in theory, you could always sew that back in if you wanted to. But I like the versatility of having that wider pocket because you can put things like Zippos and stuff, which are just a little bit snug in these pockets. Even if you can get them in there, they would get lost in there where you have to like really force it out. And so nice to be able to accommodate like those wider type items, credit card size items that are a little bit thicker than this 1.75 inch pocket. And so that's it for this one. Let me know what you think of this pouch down in the comments below. Of course, I will link to everything you saw in this video if it's available, or more general things like the Gondek EDC where it's 1 month availability. I will link to their regular Hank store in that case down in the description of this video. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting that notification button. And as always, hope you have a great one. Take care.